What is up, everybody? My name is Matt Cordova. I'm the senior pastor here at The River, and we are excited that you are listening to our podcast. Now, before the message starts, there's 3 things that we would love for you to do. 1, we would love for you to share it. 2, we would love for you to subscribe. And 3, we would love for you to go and rate it. So the message is about to begin. I hope it encourages you, and I hope that you know that God has a plan for your life. In this series called New Year, Same You. New Year, Same You. And maybe you've been around for some time and you're like, hey, isn't the saying like New Year, New You? And it is, but that saying may be kind of like a cop-out in how we live our life, right? Basically, what we're saying when we say is New Year, New You is I'm not taking responsibility for anything that I did in the previous year, right? You know what's consistent with 2020 and 2021? You. You were consistent. You were there last year. You're here this year. Hello. We're excited you're here this year. But this is the whole reason that we're doing this series. Is because just because the year has changed doesn't mean God's purpose for you has. Just because the year has changed doesn't mean that God's purpose for you has. So here's something I want to communicate. You still have the tools today to do what God created you to do. You still have them. You were born with them. Right? We've just got to use them. So the whole purpose of this series has been getting things into alignment so that we don't let this year look a lot like last year. Right? So we can live on purpose in 2021. So the week 1, we talked about vision. Everybody turn to your neighbor and say vision. We asked this question, man, what is your vision for 2021? What is God pushing you to? What is the word that God has given you? And this is why it's important, because vision brings clarity. It allows us to see more clearly, right? Vision gives us direction, right? We talked about it it gives us the opportunity to know what to say yes to and to know what to say no to. But also, this is the biggest one. Vision is from God. It's not from you. Vision is from God. It's not from you. Week 2, we talked about invitation. Everybody turn to your neighbor and say, you're invited. Some of you are like, to what? We talked about if we're going to live differently this year, we actually need to invite Jesus into our life. And I'm not talking about just praying about things. I'm talking about like asking Jesus to walk alongside me in everything that I do. God, I invite you into my finances. God, I invite you into my family. God, I invite you into my kids' lives. God, I invite you into my business. God, I just want you to walk with me, right? The goal of our goal as Christians is actually supposed to look like Jesus. We will never look like somebody we never spend time with. We'll never look like somebody we don't spend time with. So I'm just going to tell you the words keep getting longer and longer. So there was vision, invitation. This week we're going to talk about determination. Determination. Next week will be an even longer word, if I can find one. All right. So if you got a Bible, open it up to Joshua chapter 24. If you don't, that's okay. It'll be on the Sky Bible. If you're online, it'll pop up on your screen. Or if you want to follow along in our notes, they are in our app. So Joshua chapter 24, Joshua is meeting with the nation of Israel, and he says this. So fear the Lord and serve him wholeheartedly. I love that. It doesn't say half-heartedly. It doesn't say when it's convenient. It doesn't say only on Sundays and Wednesdays. It says serve him wholeheartedly. Wholeheartedly. Put away forever the idols your ancestors worshipped when they lived beyond the Euphrates River and in Egypt. Serve the Lord alone. But if you refuse to serve the Lord, then choose today whom you're going to serve. Would you prefer the gods your ancestors served beyond the Euphrates, or will it be the gods of the Amorites in whose land you live now? And here's the coffee mug text, right? But as for me and my family, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. And the people replied, we will never abandon the Lord and serve other gods. Let's pray. So dear Heavenly Father, God, man, we just thank you for another Sunday. God, I pray that we would never take any day for granted. God, your word through Moses in the Psalms, he thanks you. He says, you've numbered our days. This means tomorrow isn't guaranteed. So I pray that every day we would be determined to live it on purpose. God, I pray over our city leaders. I pray over our mayor, our city manager, and our city council. And I pray that you would be with them, give them wisdom as they lead our communities this year. It's in your name we pray. And everybody said, amen. Amen. Determination. I like that word. Determination. Turn to your neighbor and say, are you determined? Determination. What is determination, right? I think we like the idea of determination. I even think like when people talk about us, we want people to say that we're determined, but let's define what determination really means. This is what determination is. I looked this up on the internet, so it has to be true, okay? It says this. It says determination is a firmness in purpose, or a firmness of purpose, or another word is resoluteness. Resoluteness. If I'm resolute about something, it means I'm not shifting, I'm not changing. I'm going to see this all the way to the end. So to be determined, to be a determined person means that I'm fixed on something like an end goal or a target. And it doesn't matter what gets in the way, I'm going to see it come to pass. Right? That's what it means to be determined, right? So if we're going to be a determined people, we need to see things all the way to the end. Now, let me ask this reflective question. Are you a determined person? Would you say determination is an attribute that you carry? Now, before you answer that, let me ask this question. What was your last year's New Year's resolution? If you can't remember it, then you struggle with determination, right? And also, what that tells me is if you can't remember it, you probably didn't see it all the way through, right? Just to be completely honest, I'll tell you, I love that we're in January. I'm a certified personal trainer, right? This is where we make bank. At the beginning of every year. Everybody has that ideal weight that they want to get to, right? So that what they do is they say, okay, for 2021, new year, new me, I'm going to drop 20 pounds. And then at the end of the month, they'll see that they only lost like 3, and then they cash out. They say, listen, this is way harder than I thought it was, right? There's a lack of determination. In fact, can I be honest with you? If you say no, I'm going to anyways, all right? I think we like the idea of being determined. I don't think we like the process of determination. I think we like the idea of being determined, meaning this is what I think. I think we like the idea of starting something new, right? New is always exciting. And I think we like the idea of crossing the finish line. We just don't like the time in between, right? In fact, I think we like shortcuts. Anybody grow up playing video games, video gamers, right? I grew up playing video games and there was a website that had all the cheat codes. And what you would do is you could put in a cheat code and it gave you all the cool stuff that you wanted to use. I think we're a cheat code generation. We don't want to do the work to find the stuff. We don't want to do the work to cross the finish line. We just want the tools so it's easier along the way. But if we get the tools and it's easier along the way, then there happens to be no growth, right? See, you guys know me. I like to win. I like to win. If you beat me in something, yeah, my wife's like, he does, all right? I like to win. If you beat me in something, I'm going to figure out how to beat you the next time we play, unless it's a card game. You can have those all you want, all right? But if we play something, I like to win. I think we all like to win. Would you guys agree with that? How many of y'all like to win? Raise your hand. If you like to win, post it in the chat, right? You like to win. You like to win. I think actually we like the idea of victory more than the process of it. I think we like the idea of victory more than the process of it. Here's why. How many of you know you can't have a victory without opposition or struggle? You cannot, to go and proclaim that you are victorious without an opposition or struggle is a lie. Right? Football teams, we're in basketball season right now. Our basketball teams cannot win if there's not a team to play against. If there's not an opponent to compete against. In fact, let's use biblical terms, right? We like to use this word freedom. You can't be free if you weren't first enslaved. You see where I'm going right here, right? In order for us to have a victory, there has to be opposition. So this is what I think. I think determination is revealed in 2 things. One, determination is revealed in time. It's revealed in time. Right? If determination is the process between the starting line and the finish line, then what that means is that if I give up way early in the process, I don't really have any determination. Right? Which is why I asked the question, how many of you remember your 2020 goals and how many of you actually completed them? Because it's revealed in time, but determination is also revealed in how you respond to adversity. Determination is revealed in how you respond to adversity. Do you keep going? Do you push through? Right? Do you keep taking steps even when your feet feels heavy, or do you start to talk yourself out of it? Well, this is just too hard. This is taking way too much time. It sounded good, but I don't really want to put the work in, whatever it may be. Let's think about it from a parenting perspective. I love talking about it from a parenting perspective. If victory requires opposition and we are fighting our kids' battles, then are we robbing them of what it means to walk in true victory? If victory requires oppositions and you fight your kids' battles every time that they get in trouble at school, or every time they get in a hard situation, if you don't let them learn to navigate it, then your kids will never understand what victory is. Right? So let me take it one step further. Is it possible that this generation is plagued with anxiety because they don't know what victory is because we robbed them of the opportunity to be determined? Anxiety is the fear of a future result. Does that make sense? We get anxious when we're afraid of hard conversations. You know, this is what's interesting. I think our job as parents is to coach our kids, to be more like a coach, right? Everybody has that one coach, that one teacher that always encouraged them, that always inspired them. But your teacher never took the test for you and your coach never played the game for you. But after you were done, they were able to give you the tools to fix where you lacked. Does that make sense? Is it possible that they're anxious because we fight their battles for them so they don't know how to handle adversity? They're anxious because when they get in trouble at school, our initial response is to fight the teacher instead of ask them what really happened. Does that make sense? We are robbing from a generation what it means to actually walk in victory or to learn what it means to be determined, to see things all the way through. So I think for 2021 to be a year of purpose, we need to be determined in two things, right? So if you're taking notes, write these things down. How many of you know you get a bigger mansion in heaven if you take notes? It's not true, but it could help, right? First thing, we need to be determined in who we choose. We need to be determined in who we choose. Everybody turn to neighbor and say, who you choose matters. So looking back at our text, right, Joshua chapter 24, Joshua gathers all of Israel and he has this conversation with them. Now, this is why this is important. Joshua's about to die, right? And maybe you're here, you're like, who's Joshua? I will tell you. Moses, Israel has already been set free from Egypt. Moses leads them, but there's only two people from everybody that was traveling with Moses that will make it to the promised land. One is Joshua, the other one's Caleb. Those are the only two from that generation that make it to the promised land, right? Joshua is like Moses' right-hand guy. So after Moses dies, Joshua is now leading, and where we are, Joshua is about to die. And he gathers all of them up and he tells them all that God has done. And then he gives them this choice. Let's look at the text again. It says, fear the Lord and serve him wholeheartedly. Put away forever the idols your ancestors worshipped when they lived beyond the Euphrates River and in Egypt. Serve the Lord alone. Everybody say alone. Serve the Lord alone. But if you refuse to serve the Lord, then choose today whom you're going to serve. Would you prefer the gods your ancestors served beyond the Euphrates or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you live now? But as for me and my family, we will serve the Lord. Did you see the choice? Did you see the choice? He's giving them an option. He's looking at all the tribes of Israel. Israel. It's a new modern translation. You know what I'm saying? And he says, here's your option. You can choose between the gods that your ancestors served, or you can choose the God who got you where you are today. We have that same choice every day. You can choose between the God who your ancestors served, the God of beyond the Euphrates or the Amorites, it even mentioned in Egypt, or you can choose the God who got you where you are today. I think the way that we get to make this choice is you can choose the way that you used to live, or you can choose the way that God calls you to live. You can choose what is familiar but trapped you, or you can choose the way that God calls you to live, which actually sets you free. And maybe you're here and you're like, Matt, is it really a choice? I'm like, I would propose it is. Because let's be reflective. How many times this in our lives or even this past week did we choose something of our past instead of choosing to trust God for our future? Just thinking this week, how many times did we run to a thing that might have been a struggle for us? You know what I mean? That used to enslave us. We want freedom, but we keep running backwards. How does that make sense? Right? Instead of trusting God for our future. You know why it's so much easier to run towards our past? Because we know what it looks like. We know the cost. We know how to navigate the territory, right? We know how to move in this situation. We've already been there. We know what all of it looks like, right? Trusting God is hard. I think about scripture that says, your word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. I think about these guys. They followed God by a pillar of cloud by day and pillar of fire by night. They didn't know where they were going. They were just following the pillar. We don't like that idea because we like to have a say in where we're going. Right? That's why the past it seems so attractive to us, is because we've been there before. It doesn't require us to trust anything except for what we've already experienced. Right? It doesn't require us. Here's what the problem with that is. If you read the book of Exodus, how many times did the Israelites complain? Moses, did you just bring us out here to die? And they'll say stuff like this. Well, back in Egypt, we had baskets of fish. Back in Egypt, we had meat, like all kinds of meat. Back in Egypt, we had bread, but back in Egypt, they were slaves. Back in Egypt, they were getting whipped. Back in Egypt, they were free labor. Right? A lot of times our past looks really attractive and we'll find the good about our past, but oftentimes we'll forget that that's where we were trapped and enslaved. That's where the devil had us bound. That's where he had us yoked. Backward is easier because there's comfort in what is familiar, right? I'm going to show you something. You want me to tell you why he gives them this option? You know why looking back is even an option? Because they're still carrying their idols. We didn't see that in the text. He says, hey, serve the Lord wholeheartedly. Get rid of the idols of your ancestors. They're still carrying them. Why are they still carrying the idols of their ancestors? Because backward is familiar. Backward is comfortable. Backwards, we've been there. And I believe this. I think some people are stuck right where they are because you're still carrying the things that tried to rule you in your past. You know why you carry them? It's your backup plan. You say, I'm going to follow God while I'm still holding the thing that trapped me. Right? There's a story one time about a college pastor, and he was talking to his college ministry, and this guy came up to him and goes, Pastor, I struggle with porn, and I want to be set free from it. And he starts asking him all these different questions, and he's like, hey, so what do you watch it on? He goes, I watch it on my cell phone. He goes, okay, you got your cell phone on you? Yeah. He goes, are you willing to give it up? He goes, no. He says, so you're willing to carry your sin in your pocket? That's what we do with our idols. We keep it right there where it's easy for us to run back. Trusting God is tough. Faith is not an easy thing. But it's always worth it. It's not easy, but it's always worth it. Go look at all the saints that lost their lives for Jesus. They'll tell you it was worth it. Their stories will tell you that it's worth it. Here's the truth. Some of us are choosing idols that we didn't even recognize that we had. So let's define an idol, right? We can't talk about idols, not give it a definition. Here's the definition of an idol. An idol is a person, place, or thing that a person looks to as a source of purpose, promise, or provision. It's something outside of God that we look to be God in our life. Sometimes we are our own idol. Here's the problem with idols. Idols make promises they can't keep. Idols make promises they can't keep. See, this is what's really interesting to me is they are carrying the idols of their territory, right? It says you can follow the God of the Amorites in whose land you now live. How many of you know there's idols here in our territory? Let's start going through them, right? The idol of money. The idol of money. What does money promise? Oh, well, that you'll never struggle. If you just chase it, if you just love it, then you'll never run out. You'll always be okay. But money's kind of like the wind. It's here today, gone tomorrow. And what does God even say about money? Jesus said you'll love one and hate the other. You can't love both God and money. Right? Money is a great competitor, especially in our American culture, for the throne of our life. Many of us, don't throw anything at me. Many of us will profess that we're chasing God, but really, we're really pursuing money. We like the idea of confessing Jesus, but when you look at where you spend your time, talent, and your energy, it's in the pursuit of money. So for some people, if Joshua was talking to you today, he would say, hey, choose today who you're going to serve, money or God. Money or God. Let's talk about the idol of work. The idol of work, right? Work promises security. It promises fulfillment. And how many times have we heard stories about people that have give like their entire lives to work and they're miserable right where they are? That's fulfilling, huh? You know what I mean? They'll lose their family, they'll lose time with their kids, they'll lose their friends, but they're getting paid, they're going after work, but they're still miserable. For some people today, God would be saying, or Joshua would be saying, hey, what are you going to follow? You can choose the idol of work, or you can choose or you can choose God, not the idol of God. God is God. Right. Let's talk about another one. Power and influence. Right? Power and influence. It says, hey, listen, you'll be satisfied once you're on top. Right? Once you're the top dog. And when you gained and you follow this idol, you understand that, listen, if you don't understand that it's God that gave you power and influence in the first place, then you're never satisfied. Because you'll always want more power. You'll always want more influence. So the idol for some people is, hey, you could choose power and influence, or you could choose God. Here's one. The idol of people. The idol of people. Right? We live in a celebrity culture, right? You can follow your favorite celebrity on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter if you're a part of that. What's the new one that it's red and stuff? There's so many different new social media outlets and all this other stuff. You can follow Parler. There it is. All right. You can follow all of your favorite celebrities on all of these things. And what ends up happening is if our celebrity makes a decision, then we're like, okay, that must be the right thing. Right? We follow celebrity pastors, so whether they teach what they teach is right or wrong, we're like, hey, they're a celebrity pastor. We're going to go in the direction that they go, right? Here's how you can tell that you follow the idol of people. I'm going to use this. This is hypothetical. But if I was to leave the church today and you were to follow me out the door, you weren't following God, you were following me. That's how you can tell if you're following the idol of people. So for some people, it's the idol of people, or will you choose God? Last one, the idol of complacency. The idol of complacency. Complacency promises, listen, you don't have to do anything extra. You're good right where you are. We have this phrase in the fitness world that if you don't use it, you lose it. If you don't use it, you lose it. See, the idol of complacency tells you you're good right where you are while everything underneath you is decaying and atrophying and slipping away. And then all of a sudden one day you're like, what happened? Well, the idol told you that you were good. Right? The idol told you that you were good. Some people, your choice today is, will you choose complacency or God? See, the truth is we face the same decision every day that they faced. Will you choose the idols of your ancestors, or will you choose God? And let me be clear about something. You're always going to have that choice. Is it bad that we have a choice? No. You're always going to have it. But determination in our faith is always choosing God despite the promises that the idols make. That's what it means to be determined in our faith. It's to wake up every day and follow the pillar. It's to wake up every day and trust God for our daily bread. See, we like the part of the Lord's Prayer that says, your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven, right? That's exciting. The next part says, give us today our daily bread. What does that mean? God, I'm trusting you for my provision. That means, God, if you don't come through, I don't know what's going to happen. That's faith, right? I think it's great faith for us to believe that heaven wants to invade earth, but right now it's trusting God for my daily bread. It's waking up every day and choosing God. Let's look at how the story continues. Verse 16, the people are going to respond. It says, the people replied, we would never abandon the Lord and serve other gods. And then I love this. And then this is verse 19. Jump to verse 19. It says, then Joshua warned the people, you're not able to serve the Lord. For he is a holy and jealous God, and he will not forgive your rebellion and sin. So imagine this. Let's dive into this situation for a little bit. Joshua gathers everybody up. He says, hey, listen, choose today who you're going to serve. And the people are like, we choose God. And Joshua looks at them. He says, no, you don't. Can you imagine how that would feel? I choose God. No, you don't. I would be ticked. I'm like, how are you going to gather everybody up? Give us an option. And then when we tell you what we choose, you're going to look at us and say, you don't really choose that. Why would Joshua say that? Because confessing it and living it are not the same thing. Listen, church, confessing it and living it are not the same thing. Was Joshua right? Yeah, go read the book of Judges. How many times did they turn to false gods, right? Confessing it and living it are not the same thing. How did he know? Because they weren't willing to get rid of the idols. So I'm going to say something. If you're willing to carry it, don't be surprised if you run back to it. Jesus dealt with our sin and shame, and we carry it like it's a backpack. And we wonder why we can't get out of there. Because if you're willing to carry it, don't be surprised if you run back to it. Right? Man, listen, if porn is your struggle and you watch it on your cell phone and you're willing to leave it in your pocket, if you're willing to carry it, don't be surprised if you run back to it. Right? How many things are we running back to because we're unwilling to set them aside? We're unwilling to give them up. And how many of them are things that were already dealt with at the cross? I choose God. Living it and confessing it are not the same thing. Living it and confessing it are not the same thing. Can I tell you what my biggest fear is? I heard a pastor say one time, he said, hey, if the rapture happened today, how many of your people would still show up to church? Here's my fear. How many people have just said a prayer but never gave their life to Jesus? How many people have said it, didn't really mean it? Man, if we're going to be determined, we need to be determined, which means resolute. Remember, unshifting, unchanging, despite the obstacles, despite what comes against us, in who we choose. I'm going to ask the worship team to come up. We also need to be determined in how we live. We need to be determined in how we lived. You see, Joshua's response was based on the fact that he knew they wouldn't live it out. It sounded good rolling off the tongue, but when push came to shove, they couldn't do it, right? It was a statement, not a lifestyle. Sounds familiar. Right? How many people do we know that are like, I choose Jesus, but I'm getting wasted on the weekend? How many people we know that I choose Jesus, but I'm cussing people out, especially if they cut me off in traffic? How many people do we know that I choose Jesus, but they're tearing people down with their words? I choose Jesus, but they're not speaking life over their kids. I choose Jesus, but I'm sending dirty Snapchats on the weekend. Joshua would look at you and say, no, you don't. I like how brutally honest the Bible is sometimes. No, you don't. No, you don't. I'm going to read a very familiar text. Revelations chapter 3. This is God speaking. He says, I know all the things you do. Can I stop right there? God knows all the things that you do. He knows every bit of it. That thing that you're trying to hide, listen, I tell kids this. If you have to hide it, it's probably not a good thing. If you have to hide it, it's probably not a good thing. That thing that you're trying to keep away from people, listen, people may not see it, but God does. He's writing to the church. He says, I know all the things that you do, that you are neither hot nor cold. I wish you were one or the other, but since you are like lukewarm water, neither hot nor cold, I will spit you out of my mouth. Now, what's going on is there are 7 letters in the book of Revelation that were written to 7 churches, right? This one is written to the church of Laodicea, and I want you to imagine how you would feel if this was us receiving this letter. We probably wouldn't be celebrating, right? We probably wouldn't be ecstatic because this is the message. God is basically telling them, hey, you make me want to throw up. Again, the Bible's brutally honest. And I've heard this, like growing up, I've heard this taught a couple different ways, right? Like one of them is man, you know, God either wants you hot for him or cold for him. But if you're just riding the fence, if you're lukewarm, God's going to spit you out of his mouth, right? That's what, you got to be hot for him. Well, then what happens is we use the cold side as a cop-out. Well, being hot for him just costs too much, so I'm just going to do things my way. Let me tell you what's really happening in Laodicea. Laodicea was an interesting place. It didn't have its own water source. So the water that Laodicea had to be piped in. So they had cold water piped in from a place called Colossae. And they had warm water piped in from a place called the Hierapolis, right? Well, because it was piped in, based on the time that it would have to travel, by the time it would get there, it would be lukewarm. This was an analogy that they understood. So I think a good question is, what is the purpose of hot water? What's the purpose of cold water? Right? If it was just about having water, they wouldn't need it piped in from two different places. Does that make sense? So what's the purpose of cold water? Refreshment. Why do you drink cold water? To be refreshed. What's the purpose of hot water? It's for cleaning, cleansing, and for healing. Hot springs, right? Hot tubs. Those are from the Lord. I want you to see something. The purpose of the water is determined by its temperature. The purpose of the water is determined by its temperature. So can I tell you what I see in this text? I think God is telling them, listen, you need to live on purpose. You've become a complacent church and you make me sick. He's writing to a church. He's not writing to individuals, but he's saying, hey, listen, I wish you were hot. I wish you would either be healing or cleansing or cold, that you would be refreshing. But because you're lukewarm, I want to spit you out of my mouth. What's our temperature? If we make up, listen, if you are the church, what's your temperature? Right? Are you determined to live life on purpose? Are you determined to walk it out? Are you determined to be either hot, healing, and cleansing, or to be refreshing? Are you determined to always point people to Jesus in how you speak, how you tweet, posts on Facebook, all of those other things? Or have we gotten lukewarm? I think it's a really important question. Man, because I don't think, I just be completely honest, I don't want God to look at me and say, hey, listen, you lived a lukewarm life. I want to spit you out of my mouth. What caused them to get complacent? It's in verse 17. I'll read it to you. It says, you say, I am rich. I have everything I want. I don't need a thing. And you don't realize that you are wretched and miserable and poor and blind and naked. What caused their complacency was the idol of money. It was the idol of money. That thing that Jesus warned us about, that thing that Jesus talked so much about, that thing that we struggle to hand over, that thing that we think is ours, but it's His. They found comfort in their riches. Right? Doesn't the Bible say that the deceitfulness of riches choke out the word? Parable of the sower. You know what the difference between complacency and contentment? We are called to be content. You know what Philippians 4:13 is about? It's about contentment. It's not about lifting weight that you didn't think that you could lift, but because I have Jesus, I can lift 1,000 pounds. That's not what the scripture's about. Paul's in prison when he writes it, surrounded by guards, chained up. He says, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. The difference between complacency and contentment is this. Complacency says I'm good where I'm at. Contentment says I have all that I need to grow. So where are you? Are you complacent? I'm good where I'm at. I don't need to do anything else. Or are you content? I have everything that I need to grow. Right? One is stagnant, the other's thankful. God, thank you for giving me all that I need. Thank you that you are with me and beside me. God, thank you that because the Bible says this in Psalms 23:1, that if you're my shepherd, I don't lack anything. The other one says, listen, I don't want to do anything else. The other one lacks determination. The other one still has dreams of growing and advancing the kingdom. Right? It's just interesting to me that idols affect who we choose and how we live. So I'm going to bring the option to us as we get ready to worship. And I think this is a great time for you to get with your family. But choose today whom you're going to serve. The idols of your ancestors, the idols of our territory, or will we choose God? And will our life reflect our choice? If 2021 is going to be different, we need to be determined in who we choose and in how we live. I ask you guys to stand up with me and call up our ministry team. Listen, if you want somebody to pray with you about the battles that you're facing or about helping you pray off the idols that you've been carrying, listen, come up. Now's the time. Why wait? Right? The church, we're a family. We're in this together. If you're watching online, you got a prayer request. There's an idol that you're carrying that you're struggling putting down. Comment it in the chat. Let somebody pray with you. But let's be determined, right? Let's be determined. Let's not give up halfway through the year and say, well, I forgot what this was all about. No, it's keeping it in front of us. You know how you fight battles against the enemy? With the words of God. With the words of God. We don't fight by throwing punches or wielding swords. We fight with the sword, the word of God. But we have to be determined. You know, in the armor of God, in Ephesians chapter 6, we love to read that. It says to pick up your sword daily. It says you can pick it up. You know what that also implies? You have the ability to put it down. Can I ask you a question? Is your sword dusty? Is your sword dusty? Or is it dull because you've been swinging it? It's time to sharpen it again. Come on, let us be a church that swings our sword. Let us be a church that doesn't shudder in the face of adversity. Let us be a church that means that understands that victory requires opposition and that no weapon formed against me shall prosper. That if He is with me and He is for me, then who can be against me? Let us be that church. Right now in January, later in April, in August, and all the way through December. And I promise that when we go into 2022, our heads will be in a different spot. We won't be driven by what's on Twitter or on Facebook or what's going on in the world. We'll be driven by the one who controls it all. The one who has the complete control. We'll be driven by the King of Kings, the word that has endured forever. That should be where our eyes are focused on. Colossians says this. It says, set your sights on the realities of heaven. This was the scripture for the 21-day devotional. Set your sights on the realities of heaven where Christ is seated at the right hand of the Father and think about heavenly things. You will think about what you're looking at. So if you want to see heaven, turn your eyes up to the Lord. Let us be determined in that. So dear Heavenly Father, God, I just thank you for this time, God, and I thank you that your word has endured time, God. And I pray that we would be a determined people, God. That our lives would match our words, God. I pray that we're not like the Jewish people that say, yeah, we choose God, and then immediately are worshiping the idols that we're carrying in our pockets. God, I pray that our choice is you every day. That when the pillar moves, so does our feet. God, that when you speak, we respond. That when you're in the boat, we're right there next to you. When you call us out of the water, that we take a step out. God, I pray that that is who we are. I pray that anxiety will leave us now when we face adversity. And it would be replaced with the fact that you say that you are with us. That you will never leave nor forsake us, God. I pray that victory is not a concept, but it's an actual place that we walk in. God, we love you. It's in your name we pray. And everybody said. Hey, that's the message. I hope it encouraged you. I hope it inspired you. I hope that you know that God has a plan for your life. In fact, if you would like to join us as a part of our online campus and you would like to watch the video as it happens live, go follow us on Facebook or YouTube by searching The River in Panhandle, Texas. Have an amazing week.